Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Rennie. If you're new here, welcome, and if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. On my channel, I make content around financial literacy, career development, and lifestyle. So this is a quick intro before the actual video, and I'm just giving you a forewarning. This video is a bit long, but there are so many gems in this video, and you will notice that this intro that I'm recording right now is in a different place than my the actual video. The reason for that is I actually recorded this video about 2 months ago, and I have been struggling to edit it simply because there are so many good things in this video and I didn't know what to cut. So the video, we spoke for about an hour and a half with me and my guest, and I honestly was like, I don't know what to cut. Usually it's easy for me to just cut things I think are not important, but in this video, Yinka, my guest, literally said like everything was valuable, so it was very hard for me to cut stuff. So I decided, instead of just waiting to, like, it was taking me so long, so I was like, let me just do a part 1 and part 2. So this is part 1 of networking for introverts. You're gonna basically learn how to network as an introvert, and obviously because I am not an introvert, I got an introvert to answer your questions. When I posted this on my story, and I asked you guys what questions you had for for my guest. You had so many questions. You've never submitted so many questions before. So I hope that you will watch this whole video. It is 2 parts, as I just said, but remember, it's a very good video. I think she added so much value. If you don't want to watch the whole thing, just look in the chapter section in the description box, and it basically shows timestamps of when your question is answered. So if you're looking for an answer to a specific question, just go down below and click that. This will be mostly the introduction to Yinka, and then her answering 3 or 4 of your questions. And then in part 2, we will get to the rest of the questions that you asked. And last but not least, if you want to see part 2, just make sure you hit that like button. Once this hits around 100 likes, I will post part 2.
Don't try to compete with the extroverts.
Yeah.
They're extroverts for a reason, right? You're an introvert for a reason. There needs to be some sort of balance. Yeah.
Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. I'm Rennie, and on this channel I do finance, career, and lifestyle content. So I make a lot of videos about networking and the importance of networking, and so many people ask me questions about how to network for shy people, how to network for introverted people, and I'm always like, guys, do you know me? Like, I am not shy or introverted at all. So I finally found someone who would come on my channel. As you can see, we have a very special guest, and this is Yinka, and she's going to be talking to us about networking for shy people. So thank you for coming on my channel.
Thank you for having me, Rennie.
Yes, and honestly, this is one of my most requested videos. So I think if you please hit the like button if you're watching, because I made sure.
Please do.
Yes, please, because I found someone just for you guys. So first, I'd like you to just introduce yourself and tell us, like, maybe a little bit about what you do.
Hi everyone. So I'm Yinka. Like Rennie said, professional-wise, I am a marketing sites manager at KPMG Canada. Ooh. So very similar. If I have to kind of like say, okay, what do I do? I'm a data scientist, but the fancy title is the market insights manager. On the side, I own a web design company. So I'm a web designer on the side.
And she makes beautiful websites. I'll leave that in the description box. People are asking me, are you introverted, are you shy, or are you socially awkward? Because people were saying I need 3 videos for each. So I want to know, which ones would you consider yourself to be?
I'm actually all 3.
So she is shy, she is introverted, and then she's also socially awkward. I don't think you are socially awkward.
I'm extremely socially awkward.
Okay, interesting. So yeah, she can answer all your questions. I want you to just briefly tell us about your career and then how you got to where you are at KPMG.
I graduated 2013, so I studied, my degree was physics and mathematics. Wow. So I graduated at Queen's University. Initially going in, I actually wanted to be an astronaut, so that's why I picked the physics. Wow. You know, I was like, my plan was like, you know, undergrad, master's, PhD, NASA. Like nobody could tell me anything. But then I reached 3rd year, I'm like, wow, I don't want to be an astronaut.
No more school for you, right?
I was just done with school. Yeah. And I knew right then that I didn't want to, you know, continue in what I was doing in my program. But I mean, I have to graduate. I have OSAP loan. I mean, yeah, I need to pay that back up. So I'm like, okay, what am I gonna do? And I need a job right after I graduate because my father is now Tadela. So so anyway, so I decided like, okay, what am I gonna do? So after that, I'm like, well, I kept talking to friends and everybody. They're like, okay, why don't you go into say accounting because you're very good at math. I got a job at like an accounting, like a telecom company. So I pretty much assisted them, with like all the accounting duties. So all the theoretical knowledge I learned in accounting, balance sheet, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So I was able to apply it there. So unfortunately, 4 months the company got bought out. They're like, yeah, we don't need you anymore. I'm like, oh damn.
Oh no.
Oh, so after that, I moved to another accounting, more like an insurance company. So I was working there. I was a tax analyst. So then I actually registered for the CPA. So registered for accounting, took accounting courses, realized that, yeah, this is not for me. It was just way too boring. Mm-hmm. I was just like, oof, this is just way too much for me. I started like just doing my research online. What do I do? What do I like to do? How, like, what is it that I really love? I do love numbers. I love working with data. And I really love transforming that data into insights. Mm. So I didn't really know what that was back then. And also analytics and data science wasn't really big back then. Yeah. So it was like everybody was just getting their foot in the door. And I even stumbled, like I always tell people, I stumbled into it because Shoppers Drug Mart every year they send me this thing. Like they send me these gifts. Yeah. Every year they'll be like, we think you like this gift. I'm like, how do you know? Because I use my optimum points, right? To always like, so I'm like, how did they know? Yeah. Because it was like 2 years in a row. I'm like, okay, I need to find out. This is so cool. Like
that's a cool way to find out your career.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's literally how I got into analytics. I learned about marketing analytics. From there, I jumped to reporting analyst at Rogers. From Rogers, I went to Microsoft, which is where I really did a lot of analytics. And that's where I really learned about data science because I got to really learn about the amazing things that they're doing. So a lot of things that they're now launching now, I already knew when I was there. From Microsoft, I went to the government. Wow. It's an interesting jump, but I went to the government. I just wanted something different. So I went to the government. There, I worked fully as a data scientist. It was pure like machine learning. And along the way, I was also networking my way, learning about people, expanding my network. Like they said, your network is your net worth. Mm-hmm. So always networking along the way. And funny enough, one of my friends that I met, that we're now very good friends, I met her through a networking event. Ah, nice. So she was working at KPMG then, and I knew the government, like, okay, we're done with the government, we need to start networking. Mm-hmm. So I started networking, told her that I'm looking. She was sending me a lot of roles, like, hey, do you think you're interested in this? And I'm like, oh my God, a manager? I can't be a manager. That's way too high. Like, she sent me like senior manager. I'm like, no way. She's like, no, you're perfect for the role. Yeah. So, she pretty much helped me, helped coached me in a way. Even during my interview process at KPMG, is that my mentor, who I also met at networking events, was I met networking events. She was also able to coach me on how, because she was a C-level actually. Oh. She rose from just being an accountant at one of the big four. I don't know if I can say it. From there all the way she actually became like the chief HR officer. Wow. There. So she knows the process. She was like, okay, this is how you should do it. This is how you should go into the interview. And even till this day, we meet, like we connect every other month or every month. Mm-hmm. And she's my coach. Like a lot of things people see that I do because of her. Me too. My mentor too. Yeah,
they're invaluable. Always,
they're invaluable. Yeah. Get yourself a mentor. Yes. That's very important.
Number one lesson of this video: get yourself a mentor. Would you say networking played an important role in your career journey so far?
Oh, absolutely. I would not be here if it wasn't for networking.
And even though you are shy, introverted, and socially awkward, you were able to network. So I guess those would be my follow-up questions. Like, how were you actually able to do that? But on a scale of what, like, did you apply for any jobs, or were the majority of them through network? Okay.
Both.
I see that you've been very successful in your journey. What would you say the biggest challenges that you face with networking are, as someone who's introverted, socially awkward, and shy?
I think the biggest challenge is actually me, myself, because sometimes you're always in your head. You're actually getting your own way because you're in your head. So you always think that, oh my God, because I'm so shy, nobody's gonna like me. Oh my God. You have all this idea in your head, like, you have to be this loud, outspoken person.
Yeah.
And if that's not who you are, then that's not who you are. And that's one thing I've learned. Like I said, my 20s is for exploring. I did all of that trying to be like, this, extroverted person.
Yeah.
And I think also both of us being like Nigerian is that the culture kind of favors being an extrovert.
Definitely.
And especially as a woman, if you're a man, you'll seem like, oh my God, this is such a reserved, he's a man. But if you're a woman, if you're introverted, you're like, what is wrong with you? Like, how are you gonna find a husband? But that's a different kind of conversation. So for me, I always feel like I always have to do extra. But then now it always kind of like hurts me because I'm also the type of person, when I tell people, they look at me funny, that if I am pretending, like if I'm like this loud, laborious person, literally as I leave that room, it's almost like a memory wipe for me.
Oh, wow.
So now this person that I'm being like this jovial person towards it, the next time I meet them, they're like, hey, how are you? I'm like,
do I know you?
And here I am, I'm always like, sorry, who are you? Like in my mind, I'm trying to like remember, because I wasn't really myself when I was trying to meet this person. So a lot of people think I'm like stuck up. I'm like,
So I guess authenticity would be key in your networking. Like, don't try to fake.
100% agree.
But how do you navigate that? Because, like, as you said, not just Nigerian culture, but I think like the corporate professional culture in general favors people who are extroverted and outgoing, in my opinion. How do you think that you navigate that?
I think number one, authenticity is very, very important. And number two, the culture itself. I know it's hard when you're young, you just want to get a job, you just want to get a job, but when you're out there networking, when you're out there applying, think of it as like it's a two-way, like it's an exchange of value, right? It's not just you giving the value, they have to give you that value. So you're both on the table of negotiation. So when you're also out there networking, getting a job, like you're right, it favors the extroverts and all that stuff. But the conversation is really changing now, because a lot of, if you even look at statistics, a lot of like leaders, especially leaders who are, one thing about introverts is that you're very stable. You're very stable in the words that you're not fleeting. Like maybe a little bit of thing about some extroverts is that you get excited about something, right? And after a while, once the excitement dies down, then you just kind of drop it and you move on, right? But introverts are known to be that type of person that like you stick with things. They're loyal. I won't call it like necessarily loyal, but you tend to like stick with things. You have that tenacity. You have that diligence. So if you're having issues when it comes to networking, and you feel like the other party or the other extrovert have been favored, is that first of all, focus on quality, not quantity. And what that means is that like you don't need to be in every single conversation, right? You don't need to be trying to overextend yourself or over communicate or over XYZ. Be yourself. Yes, every now and then you need to come out of your shell, you need to speak out, but don't try to like compete with the extroverts. They're extroverts for a reason, right? You're an introvert for a reason. There needs to be some sort of balance, right? Because you don't want, like, even if you think about it, like there needs to be like a balance, but just make sure you focus on like quality. Make sure like, okay, what conversation do I need to be in, right? Yes, you want to move up the ladder. Not every single meetings, lunch dates, blah 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 you need to be in. What are the key ones that I need to be in? And those key ones, prepare for it, save your energy, save your energy, prepare for it. And when you feel like your energy is starting to dwindle down, just,
excuse yourself.
Deuces, and then just excuse yourself.
Okay, so what I really heard from you, I'm learning so much, even though I'm not an introvert. I would say that you really said hone into your, like, the gifts that you have as an introvert, because trying to be an extrovert is not the way to go. Like, do you find as an introvert networking virtually is easier than networking in person?
I think there's a pros and cons of both of them. I don't really think one is better than the other.
Okay.
To me, I feel like I know for introverts, especially people who are not versed with networking and you're just starting to network, virtual might be actually very good for you. Because the good thing as an introvert is that you're not the type that draws attention to yourself. Like you don't stick out. You're not the type that stick out all the time. So virtual, because then that's one-on-one, right? You actually get to connect with this person one-on-one. So you really you get that chance to really ask whatever question you need to ask. You're not basically shouting, there's no loud music, you're not having to like dress up, know. So you have more time, number one, to prepare. You have more time because now you have the person's like undivided attention. Yeah. So I can see why that's the case. So I like a little bit of both. Okay. Because I still, like I said, hey, I love enjoyment. So so I love networking events because I just love the fact that I get to meet people. I actually like to meet people. I know I'm an introvert, but I love to meet people. I like to connect with people. And that's one thing I really missed about the pandemic. Is that I didn't get that chance to really connect with people the way, I would have connected with people. So I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, even for me, as someone who's pretty extroverted, I will say that I prefer online networking.
Really?
Yeah, just because, like, again, it's one-on-one. But even when I was networking in person, when there were huge groups, I was like, this is like, I'm not making a connection with anyone. If there's like 5 people talking to one recruiter, it's not authentic. So even when I had those huge networking events, I would just try to pull one person to the side and then speak to them one-on-one because it wasn't for me. So thank you for all of that. Now we have some questions from the audience and what they sent in. And if you want to send in questions for future videos, I will leave my Instagram right here, and you can make sure that you follow me and submit them on my stories. So the first question that we had was, how do you connect with people on a genuine level and not make it transactional? Because the person who asked this reached out to me and they told me that they feel like they're only asking for like a job from somebody, but they're not actually like making connections. So what's your advice regarding that?
There's nothing wrong. Like, you're there to find a job, right? But I think when you approach people, think of it the other way around too. If you're in their shoes, that people are only there. I mean, yes, we get it. We're job networking events, right? But try to kind of establish a connection, right? Don't start with, hi, my name is X and I need a job. Yeah. Right? Or like, hi, my name is X, I know you work for this, I've always wanted to get into your company, tell me how to get in. Like, don't start with what you want. Try to start with like, hi, how are you? How's your day? If they're like, let's say for me, what I tend to do is that if I see it's a woman, I comment her on things that I like. Oh, I like your hair. Oh, I like the color in your hair. I like X. I like Y. Or how's your day going? Just start a conversation. Yeah. Right? And then, hey, blah, blah, blah. As you guys are starting to talk and you're like, oh, wow, I see that you guys have lots of roles open. Do you mind telling me a little bit about it? So now you've started that conversation, right? You started with a conversation. And then you kind of lead into where you're going, right? And then, it's like I know you're supposed to be the one going after them, but like, try to think of it as a conversation. Like, you're having a conversation with this person. And then also be humble too, right? Like, oh, I see all this roles that are available. Oh, they will talk a little. And I also let the other party do most of the talking.
Me too.
So,
even me too.
So I always like to let them do all the talk, and then if they're talking too much, I'll be like, oh, I'm so sorry, I have a question to ask. By the way, I'm very interested in this role. Do you mind telling me a little bit about it? Here's my skill set. Do you think this is a fit for me? It's like you're there to ask questions, not just like, I want a job, right? Yeah. Because you may be talking to this recruiter, and you may not be a fit at all for anything on their table. But remember, they're recruiters. They see roles all the time. So that's what you want to do is like, and after when you feel like, okay, none of these jobs are good for me, don't just exit. Just be like, oh, you know what? Thank you so much. I do need to, go around, but I'd really love to connect with you on LinkedIn. Do you mind if I connect with you on LinkedIn? And that's how you keep that connection. Yes, you may not remember the entire conversation, but that person would remember you, because recruiters are very, very good when it comes to like remembering people that really stood out.
Yeah.
And it's not really you standing out because you're an extrovert. It's just the way you make people feel. There's this saying that it's not what you say about people, but people don't remember what you say, but it's how you make them feel.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what the recruiter will remember. So they know that you're looking, right? That's their job. The recruiter also, they're looking, right? They're like scanners. There's like robotic scanners.
Yep.
They're looking for people too. So just kind of keep that in mind. It's like, create a conversation. You're there to have a conversation, not just you. This is what you want. This is what you want. This is what you want. Like, because that's what will really keep that relationship, and that's what will really keep that like conversation going, and it won't sound like it's transactional.
Exactly. Perfect advice. And I think even just the first thing you said about like starting off the conversation with "Hi, how are you?" Like, you'd be surprised how many people just completely skip the "Hi, how are you?" and they just get to what they want. Like, if you were speaking to someone who was not a recruiter, you would ask them how they are typically. So start off that conversation. Remember, they are people. So to not keep it transactional, I would say try to add value as well. Just as you said, not just asking from them, but also adding value and offering anything that you can offer them, because that is underrated. And again, they have so many people asking from them every day, but no one's really offering them anything. So you can stand out and be that one person who offers them something instead.
Agreed.
The next question that somebody had was, how do you start up the conversation? Like, what do you even say to people? Because this was the most asked question. So many people said, what do I say? Like, what do I do? So do you have any tips on that? Like, what do you actually say to someone?
Sure. Similar to what we just talked about. Hi, how are you? How's your day? Just introduce yourself and start with a conversation. Mm-hmm. Don't start, I need a job.
Yes.
So just start with a conversation. Hey, how are you? How's everything going? Start with that. So I'll start with, maybe I'll do 2 different events, right? One is a recruiting event, right? A recruiting network event, or like a job fair. And then the second one is like a professional event or any sort of event. So let's say with a recruiting event, the same thing. Hi, my name is XYZ. How are you? Blah blah blah. Chat up the conversation. Mm-hmm. Oh, by the way, I noticed that these roles are available, and I'm very interested in this type of role. Do you think this role is a fit? Obviously, don't tell them like, is it a fit? Obviously, so you go like, you just basically you're leading the conversation. You start with, hi, how is your day? And then you lead the conversation into like, is this role? How is this role? Do I like? Is this what would you say about this role? What do you love about this company? Mm-hmm. That's one thing I always ask the recruiters. It's like, what do you love about your role? What do you love about the company? Mm-hmm. And based on their response, you can tell like, ooh, this person loved their job, but oh my goodness, I need to run for the woods, right? You can just tell, like, based on how you ask about the company. Definitely. And I always ask them to, like, what do you love most about working for XYZ? Mm. And I see, and based on their answer, I can tell, like, okay, this person liked your job, but this person is just doing this for the money. And you can also ask, what about the culture, right? It's not just you want the job, but also ask about the culture. Obviously, they're going to say nice things about the company, but that's sort of like how you lead the conversation. So let's say you're still in that networking event, right? And you're at a table that's very popular, right? A very, very popular table, right? Everybody's rushing the table. You're like, oh my God, how do I get in? So what you can do is like, let's say there's a huge crowd, as you're approaching the huge crowd, smile. So a friend of mine who's also an introvert taught me that. But just smile as you're approaching the group. Smile and try and make eye contact with whoever is speaking, right? Approach, smile, and make eye contact. And don't just be like awkwardly like join. Just be like, hey, is it alright if I join the conversation? Mm-hmm. Right? Ask, is it alright if I join the conversation? And I don't think people will say like, no, right? So they'll be like, of course, and they'll make room for you, and that's how you can like get into the circle. And remember, like I said, if let's say there's an extrovert in your circle that's, pushing all the questions and all that stuff. So you just kind of have to try and get your questions in. And if you do feel like, your question, you can't get your questions in time, what you can do is like quickly find the contact information of, if you feel like, okay, this is going to take too long and I need to make rounds, mm-hmm. just find the contact information very easily, get the card, go where you need to go, and maybe when the table or the group kind of reduces a bit, then come back. And another thing also with recruitment events is that don't just focus on, just the recruiters. Network with people who are also there, mm-hmm. right? Because you never know. They may get the job in a company, right? But because you've now networked and you've now created a network, you never know in 2 or 3 months, another role may open, and you'll be like, oh, I know this person. This person's actually looking for a role, and I met this person. They can speak well on your behalf for a manager, right? Yeah. And then the manager will be like, now again, you're skipping like most of the process because of networking, and they can just present you directly to the manager. Because trust me, managers, the last thing they want to do is go through like a stack of resume, because to them it's like, oh my, because remember they're still managers, right? Or like they're leaders. They have to lead your team. They have so many things on their plate. So anything that makes their work a lot easier, they love it. Yes. And if you come with like good rapport, especially from somebody that it's in the company, that just got into the company and they're doing amazing, and then they don't tell you like, oh my god, you're just as amazing, you'll be like, okay, I need to talk to that person.
It's true. And I know you mentioned networking with people in your, like, who are on the same level as you or looking for the same, that's so important. I think a lot of people want to network up and like, oh, I want to meet the CEO, I want to meet the vice president, but although that's great, I think people need to focus on networking people who are on the same level as them. For example, lots of people network with me when I was working at my company, and I got five different people jobs at my office, and it's literally because they're like, oh, I'm interested in marketing, and I'm like, okay. 2 months later, a marketing role appears, and I'm like, do you want me to put your resume for it? And then they don't have to apply, they just have to go to the interview, and then they're in.
I 100% agree with Rennie. And then my second example is very similar to what you just said, is when you're at those professional events, that's not necessarily like, it's just like an educational or professional event, is that make sure you really don't just focus on like the speakers, because chances are, like, because they're so amazing, there'll be like a long lineup, right, to see them. So don't waste your time in those lines. I'm not saying you shouldn't speak to them, you should. I think the strategy that I use that's helped me thus far in those type of events is that if they're speakers and they're so amazing, some speakers are just so amazing, what I do is like I keep like 2 or 3 points of things that they said.
Yeah, I even write it down.
Right, I will write it down like on my like phone, and then I know I may not get the chance to see them, right? I write everything down on my phone, right? And then what I would do is like right after they're like, okay, let's network. I don't go for them right away. I don't. What I try is I try to wait till the very end, because then the crowd is already dwindled. They always tend to stay to the very end. Some of them leave and some of them don't. But most of them, if they're really there to network, they stay to the very end. So I wait to meet them the very end.
Smart.
Because in that way, it's just me and them. Because I know I'm an introvert. I know my voice is also very low. So I would never win if an extrovert is right next to me. So I just like, okay, let them do that. So within that time, what I do is then I just walk around and I network with people that is also in there. Like, hey, how are you? How do you do? So, and as I'm networking with them, I'm also adding them on LinkedIn, right?
Yes.
And then, also because as you start to network with people in your area, your profession is, you will see them at different events, right? So that way you guys get to become more familiar with each other. So, and that way you guys are also kind of in the same boat. So you kind of have like a tribe,
Yeah, it's so
to
true.
Support you. So that one I 100% agree is that, or I 100% recommend is that network with people. Don't just focus on just networking up. It's important to do that too. And that's how I've been able to meet a lot of mentors, coaches, sponsors. I do network up. But I always make sure that I network with people around me, because you will be so surprised how you can grow your network by just networking with people around you.
Can you give people examples of professional networks or events that they could go to? Like, what's one that you have been to, for example?
So, because of my field, right, in professional services, I'm also a data scientist. So I do BPTN, so Black Professional Technology Network. I think I've seen you there.
Yes, I've been there. So they had so many great events.
They have so many great events.
We're in person, like amazing.
They are. And then so BPTN, I've met so many. That's actually how I met my now mentor for my business.
Oh.
It's so funny because when I met him, I always thought I was the only Black person in data science. I'm just like, oh God.
Yeah.
And then I walked into the room during the networking. It was just there, like, whatever. And I was just like, I just walked up to him. I don't know what came over me that day. I just walked, and he's also like very introverted too. And I just walked up to him and I just like introduced myself. Like, this is who I am, this is what I do. It's like, oh, cool. Well, I'm also, because it also looks younger than his age. So I just thought it was around my age, and me, I was still like, and I was probably staring at him like, what's wrong with this one? But yeah, that's how I met him. I'm like, oh my god, a director in data science. Oh my god.
Yeah.
So, and that's how, like, since then we've been in connection, and yeah, it's been my mentor today.
Wow.
So yeah, BPTN, COFP, which is the Canadian Association of Urban Financial Professionals. Ooh,
you got that
right?
Yes, I was part of that too as well.
Yeah, COFP, Toronto Synthetic Intelligence. Okay. So that's more for like data science, AI, Toronto machine learning. Because again, this is my field, so those are the ones that I tend to go to.
I think the key point of all these associations is that they are not simply for I'm trying to get a job. I'm trying to get a job. You go there because you want to meet other people who are in the same industry as you.
Yeah. So again, always don't just get there because you just want to get a job. Even if you go into like a recruiting event and it was a bust, in other words, none of the roles were applied to you, make sure at least you keep in touch. Like make sure like you keep your connections going and keep in touch, because you honestly, you really never know, right? You never really know where the job is going to come from. You may be thinking, sitting there on LinkedIn, like, I'm just going to wait for the job to fall out of the sky. But you never know, because like they said, like 80 or 70% of jobs are never posted.
Yeah,
right?
It's a lot.
So that would really help, like you just going out there networking, and go on LinkedIn, follow like I think also follow like influencers in your industry, because they tend to speak at those events too. So that's another way, because you may be like, oh, how am I even going to find this type of event? All these networkings, like it is a little bit tricky to find them at first, but once you tap into it, like once your leg is in, you're in.
Okay, so I'm sorry to cut that video off right there, but we have to stop it for now. I know there was a lot of information, so I hope you soaked it all in. Yinka dropped so many gems, and I hope that you will wait for the next video so you can see part 2. In part 2, she answers even more of your questions in detail. And yeah, it's just a great video. I hope that you enjoyed this one. If you haven't already liked this video, please hit that like button so we can get part 2 up, and make sure you subscribe if you like this kind of content. Thanks for watching. Bye.